Hey everyone, I'm SystemJet66. The reviews are in for Resident Evil 8 and it's a bit of a mixed bag, gotta be honest. I'm reading a lot of reviews saying that first half is good, second half is crap. At one point it turns into Call of Duty or Resident Evil 6. Heisenberg's factory reminds them of something out of Doom Eternal. This is the stuff that I knew I'd have an issue with and that I knew would ruin the experience for me. And apparently the story is fucking dog shit. Right? So, let's get into it. Now, first off, if you aren't able to see my leaks and spoilers videos, because Capcom struck the channel, and they have since not come back with any reason as to why they've took the video down. They've thrown a load of copyright strikes on my other videos because I'm number 7 or 8 in search if you type in leaks and spoilers, and I'm pretty sure that they've seen that and know that I exist now, which is sometimes it's a detriment to your channel and sometimes not a good thing. And they're not happy that I've started to sour on Resident Evil. That's definite. Because before, when I've asked them to remove the copyright strikes, they've done so without any problems. But this time they haven't even responded, to the fact that I counteracted their strike. And YouTube, being the shilly fucking platform that it is, they're just going with the big boy, with the big boy fucking corporations. So this isn't, however, a knock at Capcom, because I'm still a Resident Evil fan and I always will be. So when I look at a game, for example, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Rockstar just want to, take the videos down or strike them or whatever, and the game still comes out and I enjoy it, I was honest and said I do like it. I don't like Rockstar as a company, but I like the game. I thought it was decent. Same thing with Capcom Resident Evil 8, but unfortunately Resident Evil is my favourite series of all time, and my 2 favourite games ever made of all time, above every other game. Metroid Prime, Metal Gear Solid 1, like tons of games here. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Remake, in that order, are my favourite games ever made, right? And my favourite Resident Evil games to date. And Resident Evil 8 ain't going to beat them, in my opinion. So all these other shill reviewers are like, oh, it's the best Resident Evil game ever. Shut up. You're doing that for money. You're doing it because Capcom gave you a little code so you could play it before Friday. Yeah, so you're going to lick the arse that has fucking fed you, innit? So yeah, I'm not that easily fucking swayed. That's the difference with me. And from what I'm reading and hearing, and yes, it does have a lot of positives, definitely. The gameplay is fun, apparently. It's similar to Resident Evil 4, although from what I've seen and what I've played, because I played the demo, I didn't think it was good. It was as good as Resident Evil 4. It's nowhere near as fun as Resident Evil 4. When you shoot vampires in the not vampires, sorry, they come later in the castle section. When you shoot the werewolves in the demo and they flinch, and they're holding their heads, and that's what the villagers do in Resident Evil 4, the original, and that lets you run up to them and press a QTE button and roundhouse kick them. In this game, that doesn't happen. You can't do that. So what happened? Because it's very similar to Resident Evil 4, I found myself running over to the enemy to try and roundhouse kick them, and realising it wasn't Resident Evil 4 and you couldn't do that in RE8. That's just one of the many problems. Did I enjoy the demo, the village demo, and the castle demo? You want my honest opinion? My honest opinion? No, I didn't. I don't like the fact it takes 11 to 12 shots to fucking put into these things and they still don't go down, because I didn't manage to get any of the werewolves down. I ended up just running away. I was playing it on standard difficulty as well. And a lot of people say, oh, it's headshots, it's down to headshots. Yeah, I was shooting them in the head, still wasn't doing anything. So you must have to shoot them 5 times in the head for it to pop, some shit like that. And you only get a few bullets. Okay, so did I find the village section enjoyable? No, I didn't. I thought the bit before you get to the house that you get locked in with all the NPC characters, the weird cultish type, characters you meet, I thought that was cool, because you're sort of walking up to this bit, to these gates, and or these iron doors, and you can hear stuff within the wheat fields and things, the grass and stuff like that. And I thought it was very cool. It reminded me of Silent Hill 2 before James gets to the town, and you can hear like noises and stuff, from the forested area that you're running through. So I thought it was cool. It built up tension, and it was neat. But then straight after that, it basically became a very linear experience. This game is very, 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 very linear. The castle section, very linear. It funnels you. It lets you explore a little bit for a tiny, tiny bit, and then it funnels you on a path, right? Anyone who's played the demo will know what I'm talking about. And apparently this doesn't stop throughout the whole game. It reminds me, from what I've read, of Metroid Prime, where you have the hub area and then you can go to the different areas and stuff like that. I thought that was very, very cool. And the village acts in the same way as that, where you can go from these paths and things that lead to the 4 bosses, sort of like areas that they own within village. From what I played generally, you didn't have enough ammo, you were funneled down a linear path, and the enemies weren't that fun to fight. You think the werewolves are bad? The fucking zombie monks are even worse. And I know you can do the block and the kick attack or whatever that, you know, has the same animation over and over again. But it just didn't... It's just underwhelming. This game is underwhelming. The demo was underwhelming. The rest of the game I have yet to play because it comes out tomorrow in the UK. Some people have got it early, but your videos will get taken down if you're not established, if you're not a big badass company that, you know, can sway YouTube to their whim. Because a lot of other videos that have dealt with leaks and whatever else have been taken down. Now, quickly, before we move on, my video, may I add as well, didn't have any actual leaked footage, like no video footage. It had images that you can find on Google, which means they're public domain. It means anyone can go and view them. So instead of gunning my channel, Capcom should have gunned Google, but of course they'll never try and do that because they'd get taken to court and probably beaten. Who fucking knows? But anyway, that's the reason why it got taken down. So anyone saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have fucked with, you know, leaks and da-da-da. No, I actually didn't. The images are public domain. You can go and view them. Maybe they've been pulled down now, I don't know. But last time I looked, which was the other day, they were still up and live. And then it was just me talking about the leaks. So for whatever reason, I get it. Capcom want the 30 days to run out until they allow the video to go live again or whatever, until the game's released, you know. It's just chess, isn't it? At the end of the day, they're playing chess. And I am only a pawn, unfortunately, whereas they are a rook or a plug or even a king. Right, so moving on with the reviews. My feelings on the Village demo. The game has been overhyped. I was very hyped at first. I'm not going to say my videos don't add to some of that hype, because I was hyped at first. I did think, ooh, like werewolves and vampires, kind of weird, but it's to do with viruses, and now the virus can create werewolf lichen type enemies, bioweapons, or vampire style bioweapons. So that was interesting to me. I still have my reservations. If you go back and watch my old videos, I have reservations. But when some of the other trailers came out, I thought these are incredible. The game has been overhyped. Capcom have marketed the game, I guess, well, because they've just put out so many trailers and stuff and kept people in the know. At the same time, when you put out a trailer that has an artist like Givian, what's the tune called? I'll go, because the actual song is really, really good. It's a really good sort of love song type of R&B song. That's giving it away early. Vanish by Givian. That's on one of the trailers for Resident Evil 8. My reaction to that was, and this is after I'd started to talk about the previous trailer and how I didn't like some things and it wasn't sitting well with me. And also, when I was talking about the time demo and how stupid of an idea it was, that's why Capcom have now released a demo for everybody instead of just having it, you know, there for an 8-hour window. My reaction to this trailer was, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Why is there an R&B song playing over a Resident Evil trailer? And people defended it still. People are like, oh, it's a joke on Capcom's behalf, you know, it's just saying how people are thirsting over Lady Dimitrescu. Or Dimitrescu, that's it. That's how you pronounce it. That's the actual way you pronounce it. So, I don't know why they've got a voice actor pronouncing Domitrescu in the game, because I'm pretty sure I heard Ethan say Domitrescu. Can't even get the fucking name that you've created right, Capcom, or get the voice actor to actually say it properly. Ridiculous. Anyway, and by the way, it is Dimitrescu, that's how you pronounce it, because there was a Russian guy in the comment section on one of the reviews, and he said it is pronounced Dimitrescu. So, the real reason Capcom allowed this is because Sony asked them to put it on the trailer. At least have one of your trailers that gets one of our artists out. And yes, Givian is signed to Sony Music, I believe, the last time I checked. So, they said a year ago, we want to try and get more of our musical artists out there, and we're going to use games and films to do that. Now, films already get artists out there anyway. But now games are. So with the Mortal Kombat trailer that had that really god-awful like trap song over it, that was probably a Sony artist. With this, Givian, Sony artist. The whole of Death Stranding with their artists, Sony artists. See, so they're doing it more and more now. But With this, it didn't make any fucking sense because it is Resident Evil and they've got an R&B song playing over it. Joke or not, it's stupid. This game has been overhyped. That's all I can say. From what the reviews are saying, it's been really, really overhyped. I felt with the demo, it wasn't as amazing or as hyped as it is made out to be. And I don't think there's going to be another Resident Evil game that really... that really follows the same beats as the Resident Evil 2 remake. A lot of people slate the Resident Evil 2 remake, okay? And I don't get the hate. I don't understand the hate it gets. I am an old school fan. You know, I love Resident Evil 2. Like I said, favourite game ever made. Resident Evil remake, very close second. Or just, even on the same level as Resident Evil 2. I don't think I can decide which one I like better. I don't think I like either one better. I think they're both as good as each other. So coming from a fan of the original, yeah, Resident Evil 2, I didn't mind the Resident Evil 2 remake. Is it better? Of course it's not. It's not even... This is old school Resident Evil we're talking about, compared to new school. I don't think any of the new school games, even the Revelations games, like the first one, not 2, but the first one, can match the old school Resident Evil games. And the other thing is, because when you were there and growing up with these games, it's a different vibe and a different feeling. It's like if you let someone watch Jurassic Park now, or Alien, or Terminator 2, it's not the same vibe and feeling that we had when we first saw these films, when we were young. So that goes into... that plays into things as well, like where we were when we played these games and how they revolutionized survival horror, you know, moving on from Alone in the Dark, which kind of birthed it, but how they perfected survival horror and brought it into the mainstream. The unfortunate thing about that is where those games were more old school and revolutionary and unique, and we were always grasping for more because we wanted more survival horror, more from that world and that story, that mysterious story of Umbrella. Now it's old hat. It's been done over and over again. They want to say that this is the best Resident Evil game ever made. It doesn't even touch Resident Evil 4. I've played the fucking demo, and then I've played the village section of Resident Evil 4. Well, I've played the whole of Resident Evil 4 many times, at least 10 times in my life. And the village area in Resident Evil 4 is way more fun and way more interesting than the village area in this demo, the beginning moments of this game. And it's not as fucking linear. That's one of the main things I want to say. The biggest negative I can aim at this game is it's extremely linear. And it's not even just, oh, it's linear at the beginning parts. A bit like, do you remember when Zero had so many cutscenes at the beginning on the train? And then I was sitting there going, Jesus, this is going to be like Metal Gear Solid. And then it opened up and it hardly any cutscenes and it was just gameplay. That's what I thought Resident Evil Village would be like. But when you go to the castle section and it's still linear and you're still getting funneled and getting chased once again by an enemy, it struck me as this is what's going to continue within the whole rest of the runtime of the game. And that's a shame, because I had a feeling it might be linear. I thought it might have been lazily made and produced. And from what I'm hearing, it does seem like they rushed it. It does seem like shit got cut from the game. It's a very Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain issue and feeling that I'm getting from this. Whereas 7, they took a long time, and they, you know, like 7, I guess 7 would have been easier to make because it was just more low key. You know, they withheld things a lot more. It was more old school survival horror, and this is a little bit more bombastic and trying to replicate what RE4 did, and then, you know, bits and pieces of what 7's done. But yeah, like, I do think that going on forward, I think Resident Evil 2 Remake was the last decent attempt at a new school Resident Evil game. I actually like Resident Evil 2 Remake more than 4, or maybe on the same level as 4. And I don't get why it gets so much hate. And yes, I do agree with all the negatives that people have aimed at the game. I think the alligator boss fight shit. I think that the cut stuff was pointless. Why did they do that? But when you look at Resident Evil 3 Remake and compare the two games, RE2 Remake seems like it had at least some love and attention that went into it, and RE3 Remake was literally a cash grab. It was a soulless, not to quote Michael Does Life, but it was a soulless cash grab. And you know what? Other than Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I don't see eye to eye with him on, every other game, I gotta be honest, he's been kind of right. And I know he's a character and he does it to get views and clicks, but let's be honest, he ain't wrong. Resident Evil 3 Remake was a soulless cash grab, and anything afterwards has been. And all this online shit they keep peddling out, that's just to make money because they want to join the looter shooter Fortnite type club. It's true, and it's easy to see. And you know what? You can say Michael does life's a crackhead and blah 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 and the rest of it, but I'm going to be honest with you, even through jokes and whatever else and his character, he's got a point. He's got a point. They're doing it right in front of your face. They're like, here's some looter shooter type games, Resistance, Umbrella fucking whatever it was called, the last one, Reverse. This is so they can just print money and be lazy. That's the truth. Like I said, I don't agree with his opinions on Resident Evil 2 Remake, or a lot of people's, because I think you're silly if you think that this game is up there with Resident Evil 3 Remake, or 7, or 8, or whatever game you want to say, Revelations 2, whatever. It's not in 6, 5, it's not in the same league as those. It does a lot of things better than those games. Big time. It does. Oh, you want to know from a fan's point of view? Oh, well, what do you like about it then? Well, I like the fact that you don't go around fucking roundhouse kicking zombies, yeah? It brings it back to underpowered characters. I like the fact that when you stand still, it makes the shot line up better, you know, and you get a better shot from your gun. If you're moving around, it can ping off in all directions. I think that's very clever. I like the way the lickers were introduced. I like the tyrant following you around, Mr. X, which he didn't really do in the original. I thought that was cool. It added a lot more tension and, you know, squeaky bumhole moments. I like the fact that the G mutants are more in abundance. There's more of them, not just relegated to a boss battle. They're the things I like. I like the fact that the sewers look better in the remake. They look more grungy and grimy and dirty and like you actually are wading through shit. And they're longer as well. There's things that it does well, and it does sort of things that are similar to the remake of Resident Evil 1, where it kind of makes areas a bit bigger and extends things and stuff like that, but it doesn't ruin the story. It still keeps the story intact, how it was in the original Resident Evil 2, just with better acting and motion capture. So there are things, if you want to know why I like that game and what, you know, interests me about that game and why I gravitate towards it and what I like about it, they're the things. I like the fact you can slice bits of zombies off. I think that's wicked. That's what you want in a fully 18 rated horror game, and one that carries a Resident Evil name. You know, when you shoot their heads, they fucking explode and just looks like a watermelon, you know, exploded. There's so many things. The guns are kept intact from the original, and yeah, and then it has negatives, like I said. Alligator boss battle, rubbish. The cut content, bad, shouldn't have done it, yeah, pointless. Loads of things, okay, but there's things that it does do well. In contrast, all the other games that you'd like to mention and have it on the same level as, nah. Like, it doesn't, do you know what I mean? It's more survival horror than Resident Evil 4, so of course I'm going to gravitate more towards Resident Evil 2 Remake. I still think 4 is a great game. I think they're both on the same level. They're both like 9 out of 10 games. But that's why I like Resident Evil 2 Remake. The rest of them, though, no, I share the same opinions as you guys. 100%. I think Resident Evil 3 Remake was fucking soulless. Resident Evil 6, same. 5, same. 7 was a little bit too much of a departure from what classic Resident Evil was, but it was in its own right, standing on its own, an alright survival horror game. It was cool, just lacked some enemy variety, definitely, but it was interesting. I did enjoy it. But Resident Evil 8, it's trying to recreate what Resident Evil 4 did so well, but it just doesn't seem as fun. And even when it's schlocky, and I'm hearing it's schlocky and B-movie sort of fare, it's not doing it as well as RE4. I don't think it has the same surprises or moments that RE4 has. That's my personal opinion from what I've seen and read. It takes a long time for you to actually see an actual plaga pop out of a villager's head. That's what Resident Evil 4 did so well. It was great. In this, it doesn't seem like we get anything that's like that. We just get these werewolves and stuff, but nothing progresses in terms of the enemy designs. And yes, I've seen later enemy designs. I've seen these metal type zombie people. I just thought it was just silly and over the top and going way too over the top. When I hear reviewers say things like I've mentioned, yeah, just now, it reminded me of Call of Duty or Resident Evil 6 towards the later parts. Well, that doesn't fill me with a sense of hope. It fills me with trepidation and even makes me think, should I even purchase this game outright, like at the full price? I'm going to, because I want to do a review of it and I want to get stuck into the game and see it for myself. I mean, you know, people have been wrong before and end up playing the game and liking it, but as someone that found Resident Evil 4 to be quite jarring, and then after multiple playthroughs I liked it for what it was, same with Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, although I will state that the Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain story is fucking dog shit. I think this game's going to have a dog shit story, definitely from what I'm hearing, because the people that even give it like 90% and all this stuff, and 9 out of 10 and all this, and 8 out of 10 scores, they even sort of like don't elaborate on the story too much. They just say, oh, it gets a bit jarring, it gets a bit out there, even by Resident Evil standards. Resident Evil used to be a series that was very withheld and quite simple to follow. It was B-movie, it was schlocky, it's always been schlocky. A lot of horror can be schlocky. You know, even films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre can be quite schlocky in parts. So it has always been withheld and always been easy to follow, and the plot lines have been easy to follow, and then it started to branch out and get a bit crazy. And yes, while Shinji Mikami was in charge of the whole thing, it still was a bit crazy, you know, with Code Veronica onwards and Zero kind of not matching up to the rest of the series and things like that, and having these weird plot holes. So Resident Evil has, you know, gone in that direction of crazier stories and things that don't make sense, but it's always been slightly grounded in some sort of reality, in the fact that there is a virus that creates these things, but it can all be traced back to this virus. And then going back in time, you know, okay, this is when they tested the virus on people and things like that to do the Ashfords and Marcus and characters like that. So it made sense. Marcus could control leeches. Okay, a little bit silly, whatever. Very schlocky, very B-movie, but made some sense because there was a bit of a hive mind thing going on. Same with Evelyn in RE7. She has this hive mind thing going on so she can, you know, make Ethan hallucinate and see things. But still a bit weird, like the ending where she is able to push him back and things like that with this like force, you know, which never really made sense. Well, they've gone OTT now where you have a character like Heisenberg who can just, you know, magic his hammer into his hand. He can just telepathically move his hammer with his hand. And that's Star Wars type shit. That's Akira type sort of, you know, stuff. It's very strange. It's Resident Evil film type fucking territory. That's what we're talking about. And I don't like it. Okay, because there's no real reason. There's going to be no explanation on Earth that could explain how he can do these things and lift stuff up and teleport shit. Like, you know, teleport's the wrong word, but, you know, like, control things with his mind, essentially. There's going to be no valid reason. It's just going to be... We know that it's going to be out there and just way beyond the realm of possibility. And then Revelations 2, it had the whole transferring consciousnesses into little kids and things like that, and she could spot things that Barry couldn't see. The best thing about Revelations 2 is the Barry, when he goes, you know, I've got this, and he, like, has his Magnum... His classic Magnum, and the fact you get to play as him, and there's some good moments, but story-wise, my god, what an absolute fucking shit show. 5 had sort of started it with the Wesker children and things like that, and then Revelations 2 just went off on a tangent, and this is originally Revelations 3, or at least parts of it, and apparently people say you can tell that when you play through the game. I think the story's going to be fucking terrible, I really do. I mean, they've already tried to market this game as Chris turning into a werewolf. From what I'm seeing and what I'm reading and hearing, leaks-wise and images and footage of the game, he don't turn into a werewolf. That was false advertising on Capcom's part. So again, they're doing everything to try and hype this game up and try to market this game in a certain way that's going to want you buying it, but then you're going to be like, what was that about? So there's no real reason as to why there's a wolf's fucking head and then Chris's head, other than there's werewolves in this game. I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe he does turn into a werewolf at some point. Who fucking knows? But I doubt that's going to happen because I haven't heard nothing from it. So the game, as it stands, the positives are that it's extremely fun to play, which, okay, that's cool. There's tons of games that have boring moments. Horizon Zero Dawn, Red Dead Redemption 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, and the story carries those games to an extent. Detroit Become Human, that's an adventure game, a new style adventure game. But the story is amazing, the acting and everything is incredible. So, you know, and when you do get to play those moments, it is cool. So what I'm trying to say is, games can hinder on the stories and the narrative to carry it, or it can hinder on the gameplay, much like I just said, Horizon. It has some really, really boring moments, some very boring NPC characters, very boring side quests, but then it makes up for that with the moment-to-moment gameplay, you know, which is incredible. So Resident Evil 4 is a similar game where it relies on the gameplay instead of the story to carry it. Because the story in Resident Evil 4 is so schlocky and silly, but I still liked it because it was a cult of parasitic, advanced parasitic type, bioweapon type creatures, yeah, that were like already existing bioweapons that were naturally born and created because they, you know, were hidden in this rock and they dug up this rock and they escaped and got into these hosts. And I thought that was very cool because it was a play on the bioweapons type thing that the older games had done, but these were actually existing. They weren't created by man, you know. They weren't synthetic to an extent, or at least created in a lab. And I thought that was a very cool riff on the other sort of like bioweapons and stuff within the Resident Evil story. So I found that very interesting. But this, I don't know, this just seems like the molded virus has been adapted, or it plays a part in this story, and then they've fucked around with a virus and it creates werewolves and vampires and molded type creatures. That's what I think is going to happen. That's where I think it's headed. And then I think that Miranda is trying to, just like Alex Wesker in Revelations 2, trying to put her soul or her consciousness into Rose while she's a baby. And that's why we have this ceremony that's going to take place and why they want Rose so badly. And also she has these sort of like powers because Ethan, you know, has these powers due to getting infected with the mole virus. So that's where I think it's going, and it's just very silly because that story element of Revelations 2 was ridiculous. It was so silly and it was just so far removed from Resident Evil lore and story and canon that had come before it. Things are just going a bit crazy at the moment. So, can Resident Evil 8, survive on gameplay alone? Yes, it can. But what I'm hearing is it's not as good as RE7. People prefer RE7, and they're saying play RE7 first. A lot of reviewers have said this, even the 9 out of 10 scores. They said play RE7 first. If you like what you've played, move on to 8. But then they contradict that by saying that 8 is such a different game to 7, and they prefer the more slow, creeping terror and dread that RE7 produces within its gameplay. Instead, in this one, it's all out, all balls to the wall action. There's only a few moments of tension building and slower paced moments. And even those slower paced moments to me seem like they're linear. Like I said previously, they're on a linear set path that you have to be funneled down. And I think this game's going to be very linear. I think there's going to be moments. Apparently, during one boss fight, you can't even actually take the boss on in a gameplay segment. Instead, it's this QTE section. Okay, so people might say, we did that in RE4. Yeah, you do that in RE4, and then you get to fight the boss. Yeah, or you take part in QTE sections while you're fighting the boss. It was cleverly done and handled. So, RE8 apparently starts off good. One half is good, and then the second half is all-out action, Resident Evil 4, 6, and even Call of Duty territory, where it starts to resemble a Call of Duty game. So finally, Capcom have got to that point where it actually now resembles fully 100% a Call of Duty game. Before with 6, it was like, and 5 maybe, it was like Call of Duty but third person, but still had some zombies in it. This is straight up, it's Call of Duty with some monsters and stuff. And I quote, kid you not, I quote, one publication said that during Heisenberg's factory, it resembles Doom Eternal. It resembles Doom Eternal, and you've got all these weird half-mechanical zombie things. You've seen them during the reviews and the footage that they've shown, and they're stumbling around, and then you have to shoot their red glowing, whatever the fuck it is on their chest, hearts on their chest. And so it's an old riff of shooting like the tyrant's weak spot and things like that, or an enemy's eyeball, you know, like Birkin, but it's mechanical. It's a mechanical monster. So obviously Heisenberg has started to create mechanical, like, you know, zombies and things like that, and enemies and tyrant type enemies, which I guess is not a bad thing if we think about it, you know. I just don't know. I just don't think the kind of mechanical aspect of stuff suits Resident Evil. That's just me. It suits Doom. It's cool in Doom and Doom Eternal, but in Resident Evil, it's a bit like, I don't like that. I like the bioorganic, you know, enemies and stuff. I don't really like this whole mixing mechanical shit with organic matter. Although I guess Resident Evil 4 did have some enemies in suits of armor and you know, and like the Iron Maidens, I think that's what they were called. The guys who had the fucking claws, like Wolverine claws, they were like in you know, metal helmets and things like that. So I guess RE4's doubled in it. I didn't think they looked that bad. I just don't like this whole mechanical aspect mixed with you know, organic kind of tissue type of thing. I just think it's a little bit too I don't know, far removed from what Resident Evil is. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, oh god, like it's fucking terrible. He's mass producing these things though, and they have like drills on their arms and things like that. And yeah, I was right that his factory mass produces these type of enemies. So that's That's interesting. From what I've seen of it, the factory didn't look that bad. I've got to be honest, but apparently you spend too much time there, and it gets boring. And you outstay your welcome. It outstays its welcome as a location, as an environment that you explore and stuff. And they said where it sort of feels like Doom, although I don't agree with this, is the location starts to look like samey as you have to explore loads of it, and it's a bit labyrinthian and things like that. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I have seen footage of obviously like a windmill that looked very cool. Apparently you go to like a sunken city, which was Moreau's section. Buenavito, yeah, Donna, I think her name, Donna Buenavito's area apparently is really, really short, and she doesn't even, you don't even get to really know her. She just fucking dies like quick as. Like, this game's it feels very rushed apparently. Like, you know, little spoiler here and there that they've ruined it in the reviews anyway, so it's not really a spoiler. Apparently, Dimitrescu, she dies early on in the game, or at least you only see sort of her majorly early on in the game, and then she's sort of like, that's it, that's your lot. So to market it with her in mind and the rest of it was, again, false advertising, because she's not really the main villain. Like, Mother Miranda's the main villain, and apparently Heisenberg and I think Mother Miranda and Moreau and the other one, Buenavito, get more of a... well, not Buenavito, she doesn't get fuck all, apparently, the Donna character. But the other two, including, I guess, Dimitrescu, get more of a look in, but I think Miranda is more prominent in the game, apparently. And people said that after all the... in the reviews, they said after all the hype and stuff surrounding Dimitrescu, she's actually not that great. She's not that interesting. I think Heisenberg's generic. Like I said, I think a lot of the bad guys are a little bit generic. I've seen a little bit of gameplay where he sort of like bumps into Moreau, and Moreau just seems, I don't know, Moreau seems like a character that you feel sort of sorry for, a bit like Salazar from Resident Evil 4, where you feel sorry for them because he's just this bumbling kind of idiot. Like, and I think it's going to lead to people feeling a bit sorry for him. But he controls like the underwater sort of like area within the village, and he's in control of that, and you do get to see like the huge boss that was a bit like Del Lago from RE4. You fight him on these sunken houses, like on the roofs, and it's this big just frog looking boss, I guess you could say. It's big. Again, the enemy designs, like I said, in recent years they've just become really lazy and boring. That's another reason why I like RE2, because you had things like the Lickers and the G-Mutants, you know, Mr. X, Birkin's Many Forms, the Dogs Made a Return, the zombies, and all these creatures were cleverly designed, and they had to stick to how they looked originally, so they couldn't stray far away and off the beaten path from what they, you know, used to make, like in terms of enemy designs. But all the enemies in this just strike me as Resident Evil 5 style enemies, or the kind of blobby, goopy, big eyeball, shoot these eyeballs to kill it type enemy designs that they've churned out over and over again, and they seem very lazy. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because this big boss thing, I was like, oh, if it's like Del Lago, it'd be quite interesting. And it just looks like a giant blob, like a frog maybe, that has all these, like, I don't know, frog spawn on it, or eyeballs or some shit, and you're just running over these rooftops and shooting it, trying to kill it. So yeah, like, in contrast, the actual mechanical enemies are a bit more interesting, at least. The monks, the zombie monks, still not a fan of them. Get to see some more later on. They kind of come out of these graves, and they weren't that interesting. Just reminding me of Revelations 2's type zombies, where they were very boring and just lackluster. And that's one thing, I think, where the creativeness in terms of enemy designs has gone a little bit. Definitely, it's disappeared a little bit. Like I said, having played the demo, the criticisms I have of the game is that it's underwhelming. 2, it's very linear, both sections. 3, the environment isn't that interactive, which I thought was crap. You don't really get to take down any enemies because they take tons of fucking shots and things, and I think that's when you level up your gun and whatever your handgun, you're able to take them down more easily. But you end up just having to run away from them. and take a ton of shots, didn't even put one down, or he got back up when I tried to, and that goes the same for the zombie monk enemies as well. And I was just like, it's like it's funneling you down this linear path. That's how it felt. It felt like it was trying to rush me to the next moment. And coming from Resident Evil Remake, the old school Resident Evil games as well, where you can just explore at your own leisure, I don't like that type of style that they're putting into the newer Resident Evil games, and they suffer. A lot of the newer ones suffer from this. Even RE2 Remake suffers from it, and yeah, it's definitely not as semi-open world feeling as something like RE1 Remake. So I wasn't very impressed with the demo. That's my honest opinion. That's not just me being a hater and being down on it. I really wasn't that impressed. I'm sure, by the sounds of it, the game gets a little bit more impressive as it moves forward, you know, and you get further into the game. But I'm going to be waiting for those moments to kick in. As it is, it just seems like an action-focused Resident Evil game with horror elements, a lot like RE4 and 5, and yeah, the reviews, the ones to be reading are the ones that aren't shilling right now. They're the ones that are being genuine, and they're literally generally saying this is a good game, it's an enjoyable game, but there are some serious issues. That's what they're saying. There's serious issues with the story, there's serious issues with the graphics, because sometimes it looks amazing, beautiful even, and then other times it looks horrible. Like I've stated probably in older videos, when you're moving through the grass, it looks low poly texture, compared to say something like Horizon where it looks incredible. So there's things like that, and yes, it does move and things like that, but when you take a game like Far Cry 3, which was years and years old, and it still does better grass physics, you know, foliage type physics than this game, says a lot. It says a lot, especially when it's only a little patch in the village where it is. It's not just all over the village. So I think, you know, there's things that there's things that are negative about it, big time, and it does have more negatives than positives. When it comes to Resident Evil 2 Remake, there's more positives than negatives for me, personally, on a personal level. When it comes to RE8, and from what I'm reading and seeing, there's a lot of negatives, like, definitely. The one thing that's cool about it, I think, is it's the first type of game to have, like, werewolves and vampires and things like that handled in a really cool way, and have this, like, action-heavy sort of, like, vampire werewolf game where you just blow werewolves' heads off and they leap around and all this stuff. But when it came to actually fighting the werewolves, they weren't that great. They weren't that maneuverable, if you know what I mean. I thought they'd be leaping around like, you know, an alien in Aliens or some shit, and climbing on walls and all that kind of stuff. The only time I saw that was during a cutscene, the old man, the father that gets infected. They just kind of dodge out of the way like the villagers, really. They just remind me of the villagers, but reskinned, like I said in the previous video. This is my own, you know, experiences from the gameplay demo. But when I'm reading the reviews, it's like, okay, it doesn't seem to really wow people, like, and impress people. I'm talking about I'm talking about the reviews that aren't shilling at the moment, because all the fucking, you can tell the reviews who are shilling because they're literally like, it's the most amazing Resident Evil game. No, it isn't. Maybe for you it might be. But for me, who the most amazing Resident Evil game was probably the very first one, because it's the first time I ever experienced something like that. You know, so I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's been tons of Resident Evil games that have been amazing. Like, there are parts in this game apparently that are very impressive, and it's got one moment that's probably one of the best moments in Resident Evil history. But they always say that with certain moments, like when you fight Torres Mendez in Resident Evil 4, they were like, this is the best moment in Resident Evil history. When you fight the Birkin, the third Birkin type in RE2 Remake, they were like, this is the best moment in the Resident Evil series. Do you see what I'm saying? When you fight fucking Jack Baker with a chainsaw in 7, they're like, this is the they do it all the time, they always say it. And so I'm gonna reserve my judgment for that until I actually experience it myself. But yeah, they say the first half of the game's good, it's decent, like, it's kind of like Metro Prime, as I've said before, where you're in that main hub area, and then you splinters out to different areas you can go to, so I think that's very cool. And one thing that's cool about it is it changes, like the environment changes and stuff when you go back to the village, the main hub segment. So that's cool. You can hunt and stuff, which is interesting. I like that. You know, and basically trade the meat to the merchant. All the upgrading, things like that. The weapons look very cool that you get. I think the weapons look really good. There are things that I thought were interesting, but the enemy types and stuff, apparently there's not that many, and unfortunately, people, we're not getting crows, we're not getting spiders. What was the other thing? Yeah, that was about it, wasn't it? The crows and spiders. There's probably some more that I've forgot that they've since cut from the Resident Evil series for whatever reason. But we're not getting no sort of like old school like enemy types and things like that in this, which I was hoping they might bring back. And when they said there was going to be zombies in it, they lied. They lied. Resident Evil 2 Remake and RE3 Remake are the only games that are going to have zombies in it. Because they fucking lied with this one. Again, they marketed it wrong and they lied about it. So they have lied about a lot of the marketing, definitely. And I think that stuff that got leaked where they said, yeah, zombies... no, they said zombies, spiders and crows would make a return. Although there are crows technically, but it's basically... I can't ruin it, but it's to do with one of the boss characters. But not in the old sense, not in the old school way that RE had crows in the games. So they have definitely... I think they've basically put up different versions of the games to just, you know, confuse people. And if leaks did come out, it wouldn't be the final say-so when the full game's released. But apparently one person said, I think, was it Skill Up or someone said that it feels like the game's had content cut from it, like big time, which I can believe. It feels like it's rushed out the door. The ending apparently just zips through it, like really starts to pick up pace, like ridiculously fast paced towards the end of the game. So yeah, those are my thoughts for now. That's what the reviews have kind of said. You have a lot of shilly reviews at the moment. I would basically go to the ones that actually have a slight bias towards the game. They have no reason to hate it. There's people that really love 7, and actually one person said my favourite is 7 within the whole series, and even he has like that bias and negatives to say about this game, and he says that 7 is a better game and he prefers 7. So I would actually go with those people and not just read the 10 out of 10 scores and all this other crap, because I'm not being funny, this game doesn't look like a 10 out of 10. It really, really doesn't. And people say, oh, it's Game of the Year award and all this. No, I'm sorry, it's not going to win it. Yeah, like this is a very schlocky B-movie style game. So definitely, just be careful with reviews. Don't go by what everybody else is saying, because even the ones that are trying to, like, you know, kiss Capcom's ass have issues with it. But that's going to be the last video before I play this game. I thought I'd put something in between the period of time when, you know, I pick up the game, play through it, and then give you guys my full review. So this is just to tide you guys over, and, you know, just know that I'm still talking about it and stuff. As for Capcom striking my channel, yeah, massive fuck you at the end of the day. You literally went on a mad tirade, started striking people's channels, striking videos, ones that you couldn't even pull down, you know it. You got this one down because it was getting loads of views and you were getting worried. I wouldn't worry, to be honest. If people want to watch the spoilers, I already watched the spoilers. People are going to find out what the spoilers are. They're going to find out some way or another. You just got worried that I might be showing video footage and stuff, which is, you know, it's not true. It's not on there. If you go back and watch the video, it's there for all to see. I got it from Google Images, so it's in public domain. So yeah, very childlike way to act. Not cool. I've been a long time supporter of Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, and Dino Crisis on Onimusha. I just bought Onimusha Warlords Remastered on the PS4, so I'm still supporting you as a company in some way or another, because I still buy your old games. And it's just not a great way to treat fans, and real fans. Like, we're talking fans that have been there since day one. Unfortunately, you know, you're going to be losing us, because you definitely lost me. You know, you've definitely lost me. I've got no real good things to say about you as a company anymore. I've got to be honest with you. And after this, I think you really should end it with 9. Seriously, just let this series, you know, die peacefully at least, or I don't know. It's beyond that point, but just end it with 9, please. Because as a fan, I am fed up. I'm fed up of you slapping the name on things that don't, you know, correlate to the original source material stuff, which is what you're doing with this game. It's the truth. Or you're borrowing what Resident Evil 4 done, just doing it not as well. So, by all means, you want to do the little side games and stuff after 9, and, you know, or try and get the looter-shooter type crowd in and make money that way and be lazy. Go ahead, do it, but do it without slapping the Resident Evil name on things that are subpar and substandard. We'll see what this game turns out to be like, but I'm telling you right now, RE3 Remake, Revelations 2, RE6, 5, just games like that, anything that's come after that, subpar Resident Evil games, definitely. I really hope that Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village, because you don't want us calling it Resident Evil 8, you can't control people fucking call the game. But anyway, I really hope that Village Resident Evil is good and actually surprises me, and I actually end up liking it. But from what I've read, I share the same sentiments. I know I'm going to share the same sentiments as the people reviewing it, and being realistic, not being shills and going, "It's amazing, most amazing thing I've ever seen." I mean, Sphere Hunter, Brittany Bumbucker, all these other ones, because they get these review codes and they're in Capcom's pocket and they got this amount of subscribers, so they fucking shill. Like, so it's like, fuck's sake, man. Like, just be real, man. Just be real, because the things you're saying it doesn't add up. It doesn't look like Resident Evil. This is the thing I don't get. It's like, great. Like, and then people can say, well, the argument is, when has Resident Evil ever resembled Resident Evil prior to, after Resident Evil 0? Yeah, it hasn't. RE4 did do something different. It did change the series in a big way. Then 7 and the remake of 2 sort of brought things back a little bit. Remake 2 being the most Resident Evil game to date, you know. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's changed, and you've played Resident Evil 4, you liked it. I'm like, yeah, I did. But it doesn't stop me from being honest and saying, yeah, but it didn't remind me of Resident Evil for the longest time. It was one of those transition things where I had to be like, okay, this is what the newest Resident Evil iteration of the series is, and I've either got to not got to like it, because I don't have to like anything, but I'm either going to like it, yeah, and get on board with it, or I'm going to be like, no, and that's it for me with the series. So instead, played it a few more times, end up liking it. Even people that don't like the way the series went and they don't really like 4, still respect 4. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, but now it's got to a point where I'm fed up. I'm fed up with it. I'm like, fuck this. Like, not again. This doesn't look like Resident Evil anymore. If I want to play fucking COD, I'll go and play COD, or if I want to play Doom Eternal, I'll play Doom Eternal. If I want to play a Gears of War style game, I'll play Gears of War, or an Uncharted style game, I'll go and play Uncharted. There's plenty of other fucking games that you can play. So you're losing the identity of Resident Evil. That's what you're doing. And after 7 and the remake of 2, even parts of 3, I was thinking, right, they could get this back on track, but they've just gone off on a tangent again, and they want to draw in the action crowd. So that's where it leans at the moment. That's where the series is leaning at the moment. And if these shilly ass YouTubers and these shilly ass fucking websites want to lick their ass and fucking get more of it, because eventually they're going to produce something that's like RE6 again, and no one could save that game. No motherfucker was saving that game. Everybody knew that game was a pile of shit. Everybody. So that's it at the end of the day. That's all you're gonna get from me until the game's released tomorrow, and I'll pick it up, play it, and review it, give you guys my final thoughts on everything in a full-on review with spoilers, because it will take me a couple of days to finish it, I reckon. The game clocks in at least 11 hours, which is cool. At least it's a lengthy campaign, so that's cool. So yeah, until next time, I've been System Check 66. If you want to dislike the video, go ahead and dislike it. Just, you know, whatever. You're either gonna see what I mean when you play the game, or you're not, and I'm wrong, you know, whatever. But if you want to dislike the video, go ahead. If you want to like it, you know, and there's fans that feel like me, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, because I always cover Resident Evil content. Until next time, I've been System Check 66, and I'm out of here. Peace.